We got to start with what the investors or most investors are paying the most attention to. Which one of these European pharmaceutical companies would be the most impacted by these potential tariffs?
Yeah, I mean, that's really, really difficult to say because they have very complex supply chains and, the companies like to keep that under wraps. I think, Novo Nordisk has been one that's been called out just because we know a lot of the active pharmaceutical ingredient for Wegovy is manufactured in Denmark. So that's just one that investors have highlighted. But that, could also just be because we, have a more concrete idea of just how their drug flows. But for the most part, I think, this sector is just very out of favor for tariffs and multiple other reasons.
All right, so there's multiple reasons to kind of keep our eye on this entire sector. I want to focus more on the possibility of carve-outs. We saw in the UK there were carve-outs for automobiles and aerospace. What are you hearing, and do you know if these companies are specifically lobbying the administration for a similar carve-out when it comes to pharmaceuticals, especially with the president floating as much as a 200% tariff on pharma imports?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We haven't heard any sort of country-specific call-outs, but what we have seen from a number of these European companies is very significant announcements about manufacturing investments in the United States. We've seen that from Novartis, Roche, and also we know that the companies are working with the administration on this most favored nation drug pricing policy. So we do think that this is all in some way connected in order so that whether it be a combination of tariffs and drug pricing, that the industry and the administration can strike a deal that is favorable to both parties.
So what could this potential tariff, let's just start with just the EU tariff. We don't know about the broader pharmaceutical tariff. What could that possibly mean for some of these businesses? Now, you mentioned Wegovy, made by Novo. Does a tariff, does that change, I guess, the attractiveness of buying this specific weight loss drug? Does it impact just the ability for doctors to prescribe it or any other thing that impacts the revenues and obviously the profits of these companies?
Well, actually, the pharmaceutical sector is carved out from these country-specific tariffs. So that's probably one reason why the European healthcare index is outperforming the broader European index today. It's probably one of the few days this year that that's actually been the case. We're awaiting the results of the Section 232 investigation from the Commerce Department because these will be sector-specific tariffs. That is supposed to come out by the end of the month. Prior to Trump saying he was going to announce 200%, I think most have been expecting 25%. However, the industry's response is that tariffs will be a negative for patients as it could result in drug shortages.
And last question, are any of these companies, as far as you know, making significant moves to produce here in the U.S.? Are these sectors are creating the intended impact of companies like Novo or AstraZeneca producing more in the U.S.?
Oh, yeah. I mean, almost every single one of the major large cap European companies has announced extensive investments in the United States. And there was even an article, in the press here in the UK a couple of weeks ago that AstraZeneca is considering changing its registration to the US as well. So all of the companies that are based in Europe are emphasizing that they're very committed to the US and manufacturing in the US.